All right, good morning, you prep scientists. Today we are continuing our unit on ecosystem restoration, and today we're going to be modeling how animals use their food matter. So we'll just get myself out of the way here, and let's get started. So the first activity we're going to do is trying to figure out how animals use food molecules, and we're going to be doing this using our ecosystem restoration simulator. So today we're going to be using that digital simulation to continue exploring matter in ecosystems. Before we get started, let's take a look at a few features of the sim.
Let's review how we can use the sim to observe matter moving through an ecosystem. These matter cubes represent the matter that makes up each organism. Let's slow down this activity by selecting 0.5 times. This means it will run at half speed. You can use this button to pause the sim. Then, press play to make matter move through the ecosystem once again.
All right, and as you're using this sim, make sure you take a close look up at the key at the top here and what each one of those different icons means. So we have water, nutrients, energy, carbon dioxide, and then the 4 different organisms. So let's keep going. So we know where animals get the food molecules they need for growth. They get those from the body molecules of plants and animals that they eat. So what do animals do with the molecules that they get from their food? What do we think? Okay, so those were your initial thoughts. So we're going to be continuing to explore that for the rest of the lesson. So hopefully we can have a little bit of an improved answer by the end. So as we explore the sim today, we're going to focus on how animals use those food molecules. So you'll need to observe what happens when the animals in the sim eat. So we're going to take a quick look at the questions on this page. These are the first 2 questions that we're going to be answering today, other than that initial one we had. So you're going to answer the question on this page as we work through the sim, and they're going to help you figure out how animals use food matter. So if we look at the instructions up at the top there, it says press the play button to run the simulation, observe what happens when the animals eat. And we're going to use observations of the simulation to help us answer these 2 questions. So first question is, how can you tell if an animal is growing? And the second is, what happens to food matter after an animal eats it? So those are the 2 questions we're going to be focusing on as we're looking at the simulation. So to access the sim, as always, we're going to go to our 5th grade science bookmark up in our UP Middle School bookmarks folder. We're going to click Login with Amplify. We're going to use our remote learning username and password, remote learning at tryamplify.net for the username, and the password will be remote learning 2020. We're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom until we find the ecosystem restoration unit. We're going to click on that, and then you'll have to click on the orange number 1 to access the sim. So we want to explore that sim, figure out how animals use those food molecules, and then you're going to think about and answer the questions that are going to pop up on the slide right now. So how did we answer these 2 questions using the sim? So what you can do is I'm going to have the 2 questions pop up one after the other. So as you're using the sim, it's a good idea to write them down on paper. And then once you feel you have a good answer to each question, you'll answer the first one over here, and then the second one will pop up right after it. So how can you tell if an animal is growing? And what happens to food matter after an animal eats it? So we're going to be using that sim later in the lesson today for activities 2 and 3. So keep that tab open so you can get back to it quickly and reference it later when you need it. So next activity we're going to do is we're going to be synthesizing or putting together ideas across multiple sources. So remember that as ecologists, our job is to figure out why the animals in the project area in the Costa Rican rainforest are not growing and thriving. And to understand why they aren't growing, we've been investigating this question, which is, how do animals grow? So now we have enough answer, I feel like, to answer this question. So we recorded ideas from parts of this book, and then we put those ideas together or synthesize them to come up to a new understanding about how animals grow. So take a look back at week 9, Thursday assignment, and we had a question that we posted on Google Classroom for that assignment. Let me just drag it over here. And it was this one right here. How can we summarize our ideas about how animals grow in 1 or 2 sentences? We need to agree as a class, so comment on each other's answers. So you're going to go find your answer from this question and bring it back into here. So what was the new understanding that you reached from the ideas you read about in the book? So a few ideas you might have had were things like animals can't grow without eating food. Animals had to add new matter to make their bodies bigger and to replace broken parts. So this understanding that you wrote is based on just one source, which is the book. However, you don't use ideas from just one source when we're trying to understand something. We try and bring in information from a bunch of different sources to make sure that it stands up. So when scientists are trying to answer a question, they may find information from different sources, such as books, investigations, models, and simulations. And scientists will synthesize all those ideas together to help them come up with a new understanding and to answer the question that they're asking. So I've created a Google Doc that's attached to today's assignment, and it includes this graphic organizer, which is going to help us organize the new information we've gathered about how animals use food and molecules to grow. So the first thing we're going to do is write down the important idea that we learned from the book about how animals use food molecules. So you're going to go into your Google Doc right here. And for this first one, I'd just like you to copy down the idea that we found together as a class. 1 second. There it is. All right, and our idea here is going to be animals can't grow without eating food. Animals have to add new matter to make their bodies bigger and to replace broken parts. So please take that and copy it into your graphic organizer now for this first answer. And now what we want to do is think about what we learned from investigating with the sim. So we're going to write an important idea that we've learned from the sim about how animals use food molecules. Please do that in your graphic organizer now. And now what I'm going to do is model synthesizing by putting together ideas from the book and the sim and kind of thinking about the new ideas this gives me. Then I'll write my new understanding in our example here. So in the sim, we found out that animals use food molecules to add molecules to their body was one of the things we could have found. Okay, so in Matter Makes It All Up, we learned that animals can't grow without eating food, and they have to add new matter to make their bodies bigger and replace broken parts. And here we learned animals use food molecules to add molecules to their bodies. So by putting these together, these two ideas, we can say that animals grow by eating food, by eating food molecules. And then what they do with those is they turn them into body molecules so that their bodies have more matter. All right, so this is what I did with my graphic organizer. Yours is going to look a little different, especially for the last two. You should not copy me word for the last two. But before we get to that, what I want us to do is to copy this key concept down, put it both in the box up here so I know that you've written it at least once, and you should also copy it down in your notebook. And this key concept is animals grow by changing food molecules into body molecules that can build their bodies. So this key concept summarizes the ideas that many of us should have come up with today. And just to give you an example of what your notebook should look like, this is a picture that a student sent me of her notebook. So this is what I want you to be doing on paper while we're asking you to write all these definitions and key concepts. So this notebook's very neatly organized so that she can access all of our key ideas and vocabulary words quickly whenever she needs to use them in future lessons. So your paper notes should look like this, and you should have them close by whenever you're working on a science assignment. Okay, so now what we want to do is synthesize those ideas from the book and the sim to come up with a new understanding about a different way that animals use food molecules. So you're going to be writing this in your own words, in your graphic organizer, and go do that in your Google Doc right now. Okay, and you should have come up with something similar to this. So our next key concept that you're going to write down in the box off to the right here and also in your notebooks, that animals use some food molecules to release energy for movement and growth. So we know that not all food molecules can become body molecules, right? It takes energy to be an organism that moves and grows. So that energy also comes from our food molecules. Our last activity today is going to be modeling food matter. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a digital model to show what happens to the food molecules in an animal's body. So the model shows images from the sim. And remember, scientists use models to help us answer questions and to help us see things that are difficult to observe. So scientists also use models to show their thinking. So that's going to be a lot of what we're doing today, is showing our thinking using this model. So to do that, we're going to choose cards from the toolbar over here and drag them under each image to show what we think is happening in that image. We don't have to use every card, and you can use the same card more than once if it makes sense to. You can also select the instructions button at the top left of the screen to see the instructions at any time. If you make a mistake, there are also undo and reset buttons up at the top right there. So while you're doing this, you should still have a tab open with the simulator in it. So that way you can look at the sim if you need a reference to help you figure out what's happening in those. So to get to that modeling tool, we're going to go back to the bookmark with our apps in it. We're going to click, you should already be logged in, so you shouldn't have to log in again, but if you do, that's how to do it. Scroll down to ecosystem restoration again, and you're going to click on the blue number 1 to access the food matter modeling tool. When you get there, your screen should look something like this. So you're going to show your ideas about what happens to food matter by choosing cards and dragging them under each image. And then we're going to share it out and have a little bit of a discussion with the rest of the class. So once you have everything set, all your cards are in the places where you want them to be, we're going to use Padlet as our discussion forum to discuss where we think each card should be placed and why. So to post to Padlet, there's going to be a link attached to today's assignment that's going to take you to the Padlet that's related to just today's assignment. That's this one right here. Your email address, I believe, is going to be your username. And you might need to check your email for a message from Padlet or Padlet Backpack, which might include your username and password. So once you've completed the model, we're going to take a screenshot like we have in a previous lesson by holding down the control button and holding down the shift button at the same time, and then pressing the switch windows button, which is above the little button with the square and 2 lines right above the number 6 on your keyboard. And to show you exactly what to do as far as getting that screenshot onto Padlet, I've actually posted in that Padlet for today's lesson a quick video of me doing it on my Chromebook. So I'm just going to play that now so that we can all see how to do that. All right, so I'm going to show you how to take a screenshot of your model from amplify.com and add it to this Padlet. So first you want to make sure you are logged into Amplify. So remember, our username is remote learning at tryamplify.net. Password is remote learning 2020. You're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom to ecosystem restoration. And today we're working with this first modeling tool, the blue number 1. So once that loads, you're going to move all your cards to the places you want them. You can put the same one as many places as you want, and you can have some that you don't use at all. So I'm just going to drag a few over here just so we can give you an example. And then what we're going to do is take a screenshot like we did in one of the previous assignments. And to do that, you're going to hold down Shift, you're going to hold down Control, and you're going to press the window switching icon, which is the one that looks like a box and 2 lines right above the number 6 on your keyboard. While you're holding those 2 down, that'll give you this little crosshairs. You'll use that to select the part of the window you want to show, which is this part right here. And you'll notice that it says screenshot taken, show in folder. So if I click the show in folder, I'll see my screenshot right here. And this is the one we just took, right? So it tells you the time that you took it. So it should be the most recent one. So once you've done that, you're going to come back to the Padlet, and you're going to click on the add button in the bottom left. So let me open a new window because it won't let me do that while I'm recording this one. All right, so you're going to press this little button in the bottom right, and you're going to click this little up arrow for upload. You go to pick file, and if you click on your download folder, it should be the one right at the top. If you open that, and then you want to give it a title. So title can just be your name for this one, and then you're going to write about why you put certain things in certain places. So I put everything where I did to do a quick demo. So you're going to have better reasons than this, but that's what you'll do. All right, and then when you're done, you just click anywhere, and it's posted. Then you'll go in and comment on other people's once they're up. So you can say, I agree with where you put energy is being released, because I think that the cube joining the stack means energy is released. Again, this is not necessarily correct. This is just an example. So that's what you've got to do on this Padlet. And you're going to be commenting on somebody else's, not yours. All right, so back to the rest of the video. All right, so make sure that after you posted yours, that you go ahead and comment on somebody else's post, and you want to do it in a constructive way. So you're either going to say, I agree with where you put this card because, and then give your reasons, or I disagree with where you put this card because, and then give some reasons. Okay, so once you're done with that, I'm going to move on to our final question for today, just to kind of summarize the whole thing. And so based on what happened in the sim, we're going to kind of be answering the same question we answered at the start. What happens to the food molecules in an animal's body? So once you're done with that, we're done with today's lesson. So go ahead and hit submit once your graphic organizer is complete. Make sure you've completed the Padlet. Make sure you've completed all the questions in this Ed puzzle. And I'll see everybody on Thursday. Bye.